Hey garden friends, welcome back to Flower Patch. Today we are prepping our Amaryllis to rebloom, and I'll show you how I do it. Now there may be other methods, and that's okay. Everybody has their way of doing things, but this is how I attempt to get a rebloom from them, as well as just general after blooming care in general. Did I already say general? I probably did, but if you don't want to force it to rebloom this winter, heading towards spring, that's okay. This also will work, or I'll address what to do now that they are pretty much done blooming. Okay. So if you enjoyed this video or you learned something new, please give it a thumbs up and or share with your friends. That goes a long way in helping me and my channel. Alrighty, let's move on into what I'm doing right now. This is a liquid fertilizer, and I am going to do something with it in a minute. I just wanted to get it mixed up. All right, so the first thing we want to do is deadhead. Now, just take some scissors, little nippers. I love these little nippers. These are Dram. I'll link to them. And just go in here and cut off the flowers right to the stem. And we'll leave this one on. It's still blooming just a little bit. Now, ideally, this would have leaves, but this one never developed the leaves. It just shot up the bloom. The leaf here was damaged. Now, when you saw me pot these up, and this was damaged, and it never did grow. So that's why I am going to fertilize, because the leaf, when you deadhead, you leave the leaves and the stem to promote or to gather food, chlorophyll, to feed the bulb. But this one didn't have a leaf. So I'm going to give it a little helping hand, and I'm going to fertilize it. Now that I deadheaded, and I'm waiting for that bloom to finish, I'm going to give it a shot of the fertilizer. I pour enough on that it comes through the bottom. It must have been pretty dry because it's not coming through yet. We'll give it a minute. And that way it can give it a little energy, a little extra energy, so that we can get a rebloom this year. And even if I wasn't going to get it to rebloom, I would do that to help give it a little bit of a boost. So there is that one. Now this one still has a flower coming up on it. Let me make sure I got this one out of the way. This one still has a flower. It's going to flower here. So in the interim, I have been cutting off the little flowers that were faded. And that's good. Leave the stem. It also is like the leaves. It helps to create food for the bulb. Now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to fertilize this one too. Some may say not to fertilize it this time, but I do. So let's go with that. I shouldn't say never. I a lot of times don't follow the general rules, and I have found by that I find ways that work better for me than what's generally accepted across the board. So, and if there's a reason that you shouldn't do it at a certain time or do things, then I will look at that and see if it matches what nature does. And there we go. That one's got a good bit in it. Good bit of fertilizer in it too. Oops, I didn't get that little piece off. Okay, another piece coming off. So if these were completely done and I was going to let it just go into dormancy, I would water it a little bit less. Now I added the fertilizer, like I said, because I want it to go into the bulb for forcing another bloom. So I gave it that. But if I was just going to set it aside in my office, which I have in the past, once they're done blooming, I set them on the right light rack or over by it, out of my way, and just let it continue doing what it's doing, I would kind of slack off on the watering. I wouldn't give it too much. And I have a moisture meter that I like to use and works very well. And I'll just put that down into it rather than gauging by weight of the pot or, maybe it being moist or not on the top. So the moisture meter works very well for telling me if there's very much moisture. Now, I would water again when it's down into the dry part. And that's how I handle that when these are trying to just finish off the winter indoors. So some people recommend when you're having them on your shelf or letting them go into, I don't know, just finish out the winter, they recommend diluting a fertilizer like the one I used and then continuing to fertilize like every 2 to 4 weeks. And that's possible too. A lot of times I do that when I'm just watering and fertilizing my other house plants because I have them under lights, which is mimicking a longer daylight like it's in summer. Because a lot of times people will say stop fertilizing in the winter because of the shorter days. But if you have them under lights and you're mimicking longer days, then it makes sense to fertilize. I still dilute, and then I fertilize like once a month my indoor plants. So once these are completely done blooming, after this one's done, to force dormancy so that I can get a rebloom this winter, I would put these into a dark place like my basement, and it's cool down there. It usually is between 45 and 55 in my basement, depending on the temperature. Like today, it is almost 60. It got to 60 degrees. It's now starting to go down. It's 58 in here. They need dark, cool temperatures for 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, I think it is, to kind of let the bulb go into dormancy, and then you're going to go ahead and bring it back out. So when you bring it back out, the leaves should be all faded away. You know, what's left, that one didn't even have a leaf, like I said, what have you. Everything should be faded away, even the stalk. And when you bring it out, you want to repot it. Now, some people don't, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. And my friend who does this all the time, they say their main secret is to repot it. And I suppose that it could have used all of the nutrients. I don't know. But it can't hurt. It's not that much potting soil. So you dump out the old potting soil, put it in some new potting soil after 8 weeks in the basement or a dark, cold place, and repot it. And if you need to go into a larger pot, then do so. I had one that it was a larger bulb like this one, and you saw me when I potted these up, that I put it into a smaller pot like this, and it just sat there. While these grew and bloomed, that one did not. The leaves are only about this tall. So I think it's good that you actually pot it into a pot that's the right size. Now they recommend like an inch around the edge from the bulb, all the way around. So that would be 2 inches total if you measured for that. So this one was a smaller bulb. It put on lots of blooms, even though it was a small bloom, and it has been beautiful. I'll put up a video clip of it in my office in the window, which I had just been loving it. I can't wait for the red one to bloom. Hopefully it'll continue to grow. Hopefully it was just the size of the pot and not something else. Now, this one had been kind of leaning, and I firmed it back in, and I think it's going to be okay. But if you need to, you can put a little stake in. I have bamboo canes from my bamboo that I use to poke down in here and to steady it. Now, one of my tricks for keeping it more upright is to turn it when it's in the window, because it tends to want to lean for the sun. And so that helps to keep it more upright. And I try to always put them in heavier pots because that prevents it from being top heavy and toppling over. These terracotta pots are heavier, and they kind of weight it down well. So you want to keep an eye out for pests and or disease. I've not struggled with disease at all, but I do get fungus gnats. I just put a video up on how I take care of fungus gnats. In fact, you can see part of it here. And there's mealybugs. Oh, mealybugs are the worst, I think. And other type critters that can get on it. And I wipe those off. The mealybugs, oh man, I take a little cotton swab and alcohol, and I take them off with that, and that kills them, and hopefully any progeny they've left behind. So for the ones I don't try to force into rebloom, as I said, I leave them in my office. I let them just do their thing. They're all leaves. They say pretty leaves. And then when the weather's warming up, I go ahead and put them back outside. And when I put them back outside, I put them in the shade for a few days, or like morning sun briefly, and then afternoon shade. And then I move them into, I would say, still a lot of morning sun with afternoon shade in the pots, and they summer outside. Some people actually sink the pots into the soil, into the ground, or they plant them directly into the ground. I do not put them directly in the ground because I have gophers who love to eat a lot of the bulbs that I have. And there you have it, my garden friends, your post-blooming care of your amaryllis, whether you wish them to rebloom this season or just have them rebloom the next season. And enjoy. So come on back for my next video. And again, if you enjoyed this video or learned anything new, please give it a thumbs up and or share with your friends. Okay, I will see you in the next video where I think I'm going to be pruning my Thanksgiving cactus that are done blooming and share that all with you. Okay, see you then. Bye. Okay, this is the path to my basement. And I won't take you in here with me because it's dark. And I'll find a spot for it. So we'll go and get it in March and bring it out and see that. I have questions on whether this one will rebloom because it didn't have a leaf, but you never know. All right, see you later.